We're back. Appreciate you hanging with us. First hour of the show. A lot of fun. Went real fast. It's Tone to Shields. I'm Rob Ellis. Got you for 2 hours of power coming up. All right, Tone. So let's look at it. So this team got off to a 10-1 start this season. And if you look at some of the wins, there were definitely some really impressive wins when you look at what some of these teams are still playing. Some of these teams have a chance to win a Super Bowl. The good wins include beating Tampa in week 3. Tampa's still playing, as we well know. They beat the Rams, who were a playoff team, on the road in week 5. They beat Miami, who was a playoff team, in week 7. They beat Dallas in week 9, who was a playoff team. Kansas City, they beat in week 11, who's still playing. Buffalo in week 12, who was still playing. So it's not like, getting off to the 10-1 start, they just beat up a bunch of patsies and terrible teams.
Right.
But as we watched those games, we also know, for example, in the Kansas City game, they got pretty fortunate. James Bradbury got beat like a drum on a deep shot that Mahomes put right on the money, and Valdez-Scantling dropped it, which could have changed the course of that game. And that's just one example. There were a couple other games where things happened during the course of the game that very easily could have, given you a defeat. Now, in fairness, there's stuff that happens all the time in NFL games that could have either won you or lost you the game, like random stuff that happens. So you got to be careful if you're digging too much into that. But nonetheless, 10-1, best record in the NFL, number 1 seed. And as Dave Zingara, who we just had on, pointed out, at that point, a lot of people are making the argument for Jalen to be the leader in the clubhouse as far as the MVP goes. So then the wheels really, really come off. They're home against San Francisco, and they get lit up to the tune of 42-19. They go to Dallas, and they're not competitive, and it's 33-13. Then they go to Seattle, and they lose 20-17. They escape the Giants on Christmas, and they lose to the Cardinals and the Giants to close out the year. And then, of course, 32-9, against Tampa to end the season. So I want to kind of look at where the turning point occurred in your estimation. Was it as simple as San Fran beat down, never recovered, almost like a prize fight where a guy's never the same afterwards? Is it Seattle, 92-yard drive with a backup quarterback, and then an ad-libbed play by the QB and the wide receiver that turns out to be an interception rather than getting yourself in field goal position? Is it the Cardinals game where you're up 21-6 at the half? At that point, you still had a shot at the number 1 seed. You still did. And then you lose 35-31. Is it the Giants game where they quit and just mailed it in the last game of the season when it really signified? Like, what was it for you where you were like, if I look back now, that was it?
Man, it's such a loaded question, right? It's you can point to so many things, and plus in hindsight, we can say, wow, these issues actually been permeating since week 1. So
yeah.
And
that's an answer too. That's an answer too. I mean,
right. But also, they still were 10-1, right? So something was still going right, nonetheless. Sure, did they get a few breaks, but they were 10-1. Mm-hmm. So whatever they were experiencing that led to that 10-1, they had opportunities to repair it, right? But for me, I think if I'm being true to self, what comes to mind is that Bills game, because it took a lot to get to that W. Mm-hmm. It took more to get that W than probably they've given to any game they've won over the past 2 years. That game went to overtime. It was rainy. It was a mess. It was sloppy. The team was non-existent in the first half. Came alive in the second half somehow, some way. It just took a lot out of them. The defense played around 95 total defensive snaps. Some guys played over 100 snaps because they played special teams as well, like Reed Blankenship, guys like that. So this team was put through the ringer in that game, got the W, but it took a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think San Fran basically just put a wounded dog down. And then the Cowboys were just the pallbearers. So I think that was the genesis for their issues in terms of the downward spiral. But I think schematically, technically, their issues have been existent from the get-go, from week one. But then I'll take it a step further. Some people say, well, yeah, you lose to the Niners, you lose to the Cowboys. Okay, things happen. Remember, at that time, what did we blame it on? We blamed it on fatigue,
Mhm.
right? Even though we were distraught, we still blamed it on, well, they had those 2 rough games against the Chiefs and the Bills. They had to play 70 plus, 80 plus, 90 plus snaps in those games.
Yeah.
That's hard to respond to. You're on short notice with your opponents having 10 days plus rest. People were kind of leaning on that. So that was the silver lining. They're tired. And then the Seattle game, as you mentioned. And I think that, in my opinion, was the final death blow that said to the Philadelphia Eagles fans, this team is not ready nor prepared.
That's fascinating that it would be a game that they win. Isn't it? I mean, it's amazing. And there's almost a symbolic play. There's the Jordan Davis trying to chase down Josh Allen, which he actually made a good play. He forced him out of bounds before he could pick up a first down. And you remember at the time, we're like, damn, look at that dude. The hustle. Look at the hustle.
Jordan Davis sold his soul for that.
And that was it.
whatever he had left was shot out
never
in that play.
Never be heard from again after that play.
Oh my God, man. It's like like you said, you had a great example earlier. It's like a prize fight. It's like you're in that final round and you're just hanging on by. You and I are big Rocky fans.
Yeah, you're waiting for that bell, man.
You're just trying to survive. Remember that scene when Apollo and Rocky, they were just hitting each other.
Rocky too. They're both out of gas, and they're
both out of
just
gas.
exchange. Nobody's moving. They're just swinging at each other. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
So that's how I see it, right? I feel like it was a trickle down effect. We can point to it's so hard to pinpoint one particular moment in time because they're so intertwined. But I think if I had to lock in on a moment, there was a deflating energy between Buffalo and San Francisco.
Okay, I like that. So I'll give you mine, and I think you laid out a good case for that game. I'm going Seattle. Here's why.
Okay.
So you're coming off, in my opinion, two kind of understandable. You're coming off 2 understandable losses. Like San Fran, they've been obsessed with this Eagles game from Jump Street. As soon as they saw that they were playing them, circled on the calendar, blah blah blah. The Dallas game was a revenge game. At the time, Dallas was playing just ridiculous at home. Those 2 were going to be tough. And if you lose those 2 games, you never like to lose, but I think it's a little bit understandable. What's not understandable is going into Seattle, and I get that that's a place they've struggled at, but you're playing Drew Lock. Geno Smith's not even playing. Drew Lock's career backup. Let's face it, he's going to have a long career holding a clipboard, and good for him, But your punter drops one at the 8-yard line, and they have no timeouts and a $1:24 left.
They should have never won that game. Oh my! When you lay it out like that, they should have never won that game. I'm willing to argue if you had shown the size defense in there, at least they know where to be.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
So exactly where I'm going. So keep in mind, this is first Patricia game. We're watching Drew Lock have success during this drive, and you're saying, dude, first of all, don't ever leave Bradbury in any kind of single coverage under any circumstance. And it's unfolding, and you're saying to yourself, what's Patricia doing? What are these play calls, man? What is happening here? And eventually we get to the point where they're converting third downs. There were 3 plays on that drive, 2 of which an Eagle player had their hand on the ball. Do you remember the DK Metcalf?
Yeah. Okay. That was nasty. He caught that with his thigh.
Right.
That was nasty.
Pick it off. Pick it off. There's one that's batted up in the air.
Wasn't it in his hand? He just didn't get
it. It was in Bradbury's hand. There's one that's batted up in the air, and I think it was Nicholas Morrow. I think it was Nick Morrow, who almost has a shot to pick it, right? That's not picked. All right. So it's like, so then as we're watching the drive unfold, I'm saying to myself, you're telling me this was the improvement, bringing this dude in? And then the creme de la creme. You have Smith-Njigba in single coverage with James Bradbury, and Drew Lock throws the ball of his life, by the way. You couldn't drop it in a bucket better. But he's only beating the worst corner in football. who should never be by himself. They score there as if that wasn't bad enough. Then the Eagles get the ball back, and they're actually getting down the field. They're at their own 45 with, I think, 22 seconds left. And there's a play to be made. You have two guys underneath open that would have gotten you in field position for, in my opinion, a great kicker and a money kicker. And instead, that's when you decide at that juncture you're going to ad-lib a play. And Jalen throws, an underthrown ball that's picked off. The safety comes over, makes the play, and it's over. Instead of giving yourself a shot to get to overtime. And I just said to myself, you saw everything on full display there. You saw the defense unable to get a stop on a backup quarterback and let him go 92 yards. Yeah. You saw the new coordinator not know what he's doing. And then you see Jalen continuing to turn the ball over in big spots. Not to mention, and I didn't even bring this up, Tone. Earlier, two drives earlier, he underthrows Quez Watkins. Why you're throwing to Quez Watkins in a big spot, I have no idea still, which resulted in a pick. Everything in that game should have told you, holy shit, they're in trouble. Like everything should, it was all there on full display on both sides of the ball.
Seattle showed a lot.
Yeah.
So you know what it is? The 49ers and the Cowboys exposed their flaws talent-wise, and Seattle exposed their flaws mentality-wise.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. And I think you make a good point. The overreaction, removing Sean Desai from his position. Why would you think that would be a great course of action in Week 15? Help me understand. Week 14, whatever it was.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. You're doing it that late.
Okay,
so it is.
And then to make it even more annoying, you had the notion to do it at the bye week.
Yeah.
So why not do it then?
Yeah, you're coming off the Dallas game, and I get you won that game, but you're coming off the Dallas game. Give yourself an extra week to get really acclimated with this guy. No, you don't do it then. You do it after the Dallas loss, which, by the way, like, if you really expected them to beat San Fran and Dallas, like, come on, let's be real about this. They weren't going to go 16-1. You're going to lose some games, and those two were very likely lost kind of games. So that's when you scapegoat Desai there, and then you throw Patricia in there. And every play, this is not you and I speculating. You had guys talking about it the other day, like, man, we didn't adjust to this. Like everybody to a man was saying, even Brandon Graham, who was like a ray of sunshine. Okay, he's the most positive human being you'll ever be around, talked about how difficult it was. So everybody's saying it. The timing of it was horrendous. You committed to Desai, ride it out with Desai. Like, ride it out. And again, do I know?
Hold on, wait, Rob. You're saying ride it out, right? But from the beginning, they already hedged their bet.
Right, because you immediately brought Patricia in.
It didn't even take a seat. It didn't even take 3 games. They hired him before the season even started.
Right.
They hedged their bet. Everybody was in disarray asking, what is Matt Patricia doing here? What's his role? He wasn't on the team website. It took them forever to announce what he was doing. It was just a hot mess. So already you can make an argument the Philadelphia Eagles screwed their season before it even started.
Yes. Right.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Right. So I'm, again, this is where this is where this stuff goes above and beyond Nick Sirianni, if we're being real about this. This is where, it's Jeffrey Lurie, it's Howie Roseman, it's the other decision makers that are a part of this thing. So that happens, and then the Seattle game plays out that way. And that's frankly, Tone, where, and like we did the show, and I would tell you if I thought they were going to win or lose, and everybody in the chat would get mad at me and I'm a hater and this and that. But I really started to get concerned about this team and kind of where things were. Now, I'll be frank. I thought they would respond against the Cardinals and the Giants. I thought they'd get it going because they had too much heart and too much DNA of a championship team. And the Cardinals game was a giant red flag. Like, dude, this really is off the rails.
But again, everything that happened in that Cardinals game, we saw in Seattle.
Yep.
We saw in other games, but we kept ignoring it because they were finding ways to win. We were ignoring it because we thought this team was made up of something deeper than what we've been given this year, right? Mm-hmm. That's the crux of this thing. I think Dave Zangaro posed a very interesting question. Remember, you asked him what would be the first question that Jeffrey Lurie would ask Nick, and he phrased it so beautifully. I don't want to butcher it, but why couldn't your basically what he asked was, why wasn't your culture able to pull you out of this,
to withstand this,
to withstand this, right?
Or to figure out a way to
Right.
change it or overcome it. Yep.
Right. Sure, things are gonna be going your way, but how come you couldn't rally these guys and keep them? In other words, how come you couldn't keep these guys locked in on the mission?
Exactly.
How come how weren't you able to keep these guys motivated for games that really mattered?
Right.
Right? The performance looked so bad from an effort standpoint, and this is where we go back and forth between player accountability and coaching accountability. And I think it's one of the more complicated situations with the Philadelphia Eagles, because you say, okay, they're talented. Still, they should be putting up 26 points, 27 points by accident, but then they're not even doing that.
Yeah.
You look at the coaching staff and you say, okay, you got all these pieces. How aren't you able to get these guys free releases off the line of scrimmage? Why does AJ Brown and Devontae Smith have to always go above and beyond to beat their matchup? Why aren't they able to take advantage of mismatches like these other offenses? Why are the Eagles behind the 8-ball? So we're constantly going to go back and forth between player accountability and coaching accountability. But a lot of people always go back to Jimmy's and Joe's before X's and O's. Shout out to my guy. Shout out to my guy John McMullen. He put me on.
No, but
that.
I mean, there is something to be said for that. But when you get predictable with your Jimmy's and Joe's, the other Jimmy's and Joe's can make plays too.
Agreed. Yeah, it doesn't matter how
Jimmy's
talented
and Joe's
you are
on both sides of the ball.
Like, Rob, look, it doesn't matter how talented you are or how talented I am, right? If you and I are prize fighters and we're boxing, and I'm telegraphing every punch that I throw,
you're done.
You got me pegged.
100%.
You got me down pegged. It doesn't matter what I do. If we're playing basketball, if you know all my moves, you're gonna strip me every single time.
Tone, I'll break it down the most in football terms. I think we'd all agree Patrick Mahomes is the most talented guy out there, right?
Right.
Does that mean Andy Reid doesn't have to put a game plan together? It's just Patrick's better than everybody else, man.
Hey, Patty, just Patty your way through this.
Yeah, just go make plays. No, it's not the way it works. Okay. The guys on the other side get paid. They're talented. They're the best there is. And the defensive coordinators, these dudes figure things out, man. They figure you out.
Rob, I'm going to ask you to dig deep into your history books with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Is this eerily similar to the Randall Cunningham, Buddy Ryan days?
Yes. So Buddy Ryan, for people who don't know, would say to Randall, go out and make me 5 plays. If you make me 5 plays, the defense will do enough for us to win games. And Randall didn't have a good offensive line. Randall at times had good receivers. At times he didn't. And it was a very rudimentary approach that the Eagles took to offense because they thought Randall was just so talented that he could go out there and make plays and save their bacon. And a lot of times Randall did that. But when you would get deeper into a season and you're in the playoffs, say, against some really good teams, guess what? They didn't have any success. You know why? Because those teams knew what was coming. And even as talented as Randall was, and he was crazy talented, they were able to take away what he did best. And if you look at they lost to the Rams and then the Washington Redskins, that was their name back then. They lost to those 2 teams at home, and Randall didn't do much in those games. So there is similarities. And I just don't understand if you're Nick Sirianni, and part of the reason why you were brought in here was because you were cutting edge in terms of what you knew offensively. Like, what's happened? Tone, here's what I believe. I don't think Nick Sirianni's a lazy guy. But I think he's limited. I think there's 2 things. I think he's limited, and I think there's an arrogance that crept in. Like, we rolled everybody last year. We started off 10-1. I don't want to hear how you didn't need to change things like he told Jeff McClain before the season started. Just tweak what we do. Like, no, dude, don't tweak what you do. Get creative, be ahead of the curve, have these teams on their heels, and keep it real. I mean,
typically coaches that are really great at what they do, they get excited when, they have an opportunity to, to tweak and get creative with what they do. And, but when I see Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel and Kevin Stefanski and Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson, when I see, when I see guys like that who are game planning their ass off and putting their receivers, regardless of talent, in the best position, to succeed, getting guys free releases, moving guys in motion, just being ultra creative. When I see guys like that doing their job, I can tell they're excited to put these players in these particular positions. I can tell they're excited to say, "Oh, I can't wait to see Amon-Ra St. Brown run this route. This is going to be crazy. They're not going to see this coming." Nick Sirianni, where's your excitement for what you do, right? Where's your excitement for getting creative as you possibly can with what you've been given? You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift. You got that offensive line, and you think you're going to just hinge all of that on just doing what you normally do? Get excited. Get creative. You got these amazing pieces that you can just go balls to the wall with. And yet you still want to keep doing what you do best. And now it's become what you do worst.
That's
so.
And Tony,
things have to change here when you got guys this talented. You got to, the Eagles are at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to motion, right? Motion is where the league is. These coaches are getting these guys free releases, and they're taking advantage of the fact that these defenders can't get too physical. They're like, why does A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert have to always win their matchup? Why is it's embedded in the coaching, right? We look at the defense, we look at the offense, and we say it's too much one-on-one going on. It's too much selfish football going on. But it's embedded in the game plan. It's embedded in the coach's philosophy. Oh, yeah, we trust our guys to win their matchups. No, we need to trust you to help make these guys a little bit better. And he did not do that.
I remember, and this stood out to me, man, like it was like a lightning bolt. When the offense was struggling, and this was probably after either Seattle or maybe that Giants win. It might have been after that one, I think. Brian Johnson was asked, like, hey, the offense doesn't appear to be the same one that it was last year. You guys just aren't. Everything seems to be like a laborious.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and they asked him, what do you need to do to change things up? He said, well, we need more chunk plays. And I'm like, no, you don't, man. I mean, obviously, you'd love to have deep shots, but like, it just told me, like, this is what they are implanting in the brain, Jalen's head. Like, no, dude, how about you get more creative? How about you and Nick scheme it up a little bit better rather than let A.J. Brown go out there or Devontae go? Look, just Tone, look at Monday night. I know they were without A.J. Brown. That's a big deal. But the offense was, Devontae, go make ridiculous plays for us. And he did the best that he could, but you had nothing else going on. It was Devontae Smith taking a ball away from two guys or, just being Devontae Smith. There was nothing else going on there.
Devontae was spectacular. Devontae ended that game with 8 catches on 12 targets, 148 yards receiving. He averaged 18.5 yards per catch. Longest catch of the day was 55 yards. Out of his 8 catches, 6 of them resulted in a first down. He was the offense. He was the chain mover.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
This offense is doesn't make sense. This offense is too player-centric. Does that make sense? Like they're too reliant on players putting on the Superman
Where's
cape.
the system as opposed
Where's
to
the machine? What we say? You know what we say about the Niners all the time? Damn, they're a well-oiled machine. Where's the machine in Philadelphia?
Yeah, it's not there.
Right.
The simple answer is it's not there, and that's also got to be part of this inquisition, or whatever you want to call it. This meeting that Lori's having with Nick. Hey, let me. This is not Eagles related, but sports related, and it's a bummer. And I don't know. This may be a generational thing, Tone. But when I was a kid, I loved Sports Illustrated. It was one of the things I asked for Christmas from my parents was to get me a subscription because I would get it every week. And I love the cover.
Yeah,
I love the.
When I was a kid, the commercials for Sports Illustrated, because they were infomercials. And at least when I was a kid, early 2000s, seeing those things pop up on TV, and I always wanted them. My mom told me no.
Yeah,
because my mom didn't believe in ordering stuff off TV. So
right, no, but I loved Sports Illustrated. Okay, It was like when it arrived, I was like, oh. So anyway, Sports Illustrated's over. They've laid off their entire staff.
You mean the physical brand, or just the
Everything.
entire
I
company
believe
as
online as well. Yeah, it's all done.
in si.com, all that stuff?
Yeah, the whole nine. And it stinks. And I hope,
Whoa.
yeah.
We know
They
we know some guys that work for them.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. I loved Sports Illustrated, and again, they still have people who are brilliant at what they do that are still doing it there, even though they've lost a lot of people over the years. And I know people don't read magazines like hard copy stuff anymore, same as newspapers. I get it, but I guess the financial model, whatever, even online, was not
Sports
cutting it.
Illustrated is iconic. How couldn't
Yeah,
somebody sweep in and buy it and flip it? You know what I mean? I don't
yeah.
understand.
The
Like,
the
in
the
my opinion, what Bleacher Report is now, like in my opinion, Bleacher Report is Sports Illustrated on steroids.
Yeah, the Arena Group, I guess, who own them, has given notice that it intends to lay off Sports Illustrated's entire staff, according to an email obtained by Front Office Sports.
Damn.
So I hope something changes. I hope there's something that comes down. But that's a bummer for people who are big fans of sports. It was something that was a big deal every year, man. Every week.
So does that mean no more Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions?
That is correct. That's also a tough loss. I did the same thing, Sills. I would cover my walls with their covers. There was a great couple, like when I was a kid, Randall cover shots. And I remember when Dr. J was retiring, they had this really cool shot of him. Just stuff like that. It's a bummer, man. That's too bad. Yeah, that's a loss, for sure. Yeah, you're still getting over the Sports Illustrated swimsuit. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's
that one's sad. 440 out for that one, man.
There are just so many smart young ladies who are missing out on golden opportunities to put it on their college resumes.
Yep.
It's
I know. That's a bummer, dude. Yes, I remember when I go back to my young teenage days. Elle McPherson. You want to talk about OG strong? That was Elle McPherson, man, on the Sports Illustrated cover. And then you fast forward to the Kate Uptons and the Brooklyn Deckers. All right. Anyway, but I need to dial back in.
Hold your horses. Last time I checked, your wife is still working from home.
That's a good question.
Hold your horses.
All right, let's hit a break. Let's come back. We got a lot of ground to cover when we get back. So we're going to dive into the divisional round games, Tone. We got 4 games this weekend, 2 tomorrow and 2 on Sunday. And we'll get into both of those games when we come back. And again, we hear anything with the interview here. What are you? Is it an interview? It's not really an interview. It's an exit interview, at least, right?
Dang.
At least we got Sports Illustrated body issue. Yeah, no thanks.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
All right, so we'll hit it real quick. We'll come back. We'll look at the games this weekend. Don't go anywhere. Tone DeShields, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you right now about Pro Action Restoration. Yes, Pro Action Restoration. If you have a home, you have a business, you have a property that you own, and you go through the pain, the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke, mold damage, you know how challenging that can be, right? But Pro Action Restoration, they are the people. That's what they do. Okay. And they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I went through it, a couple months ago, and it was harrowing, man. It was a pain in the butt. And we had water damage to our house, and they handled it great. I mean, they fixed the problem first and foremost. They came in, and I had damage to a wall, to a ceiling, to my carpet, and they took care of all of it. And they'll help you out as well. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured, and they've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. Again, it could be water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760. That's 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com.